Is it your dad's company and you're just like working for it? Or whose girlfriend are you? Whose PA are you?
Yeah.
No one believes that you actually run the company.
Yeah. I felt betrayed almost by teachers. Like, why did no one help me? I was only a little kid. Hi, I'm Austin.
Hi, I'm Grace.
And welcome to Visionaries in Progress. Hi, I'm Austin Okolo, founder of Gen Z Recruitz, and essentially we recruit Gen Z talent to top organisations across the globe.
Hi, I'm Grace Hardy, and I'm the CEO of Hardy Accounting, as well as the Unconventional podcast. What inspired you to start your business at such a young age?
It was kind of an accident. So this is like one of my third business. So my first actual business was when I was like 11 years old. I sold a pair of football boots to my friend Tom for £10. And I thought it was cool how I sold something and I got £10. And back in the day, £10 is like, you go to the corner shop, you're getting sweets, KAs, all the drinks. So I was always doing entrepreneurial stuff before I knew what it was. Then I did a fashion brand called Born and Out London, which I thought would be cool to have my own brand. I just thought it'd be fun. And I think a lot of the business I started when I first started was because I thought it'd be fun. Then as I grew the fashion brand, I started a personal brand. As I grew that, I built a community of young people. We did like a network event called the Gen Z Club. And we sold out in our first 2 hours.
Congrats.
And then thank you. Then from there, we did another event, sold out again. Then we did like 50 more. Then we started to get sponsors for those events. And then the reason why we would get those sponsors was because companies were essentially trying to recruit talent from the events. We started to hire from our events, but I realised that, as you know, recruitment is harder than, sponsoring an event. And, it takes a lot more to get people into roles. So I started a recruitment agency to help the companies that already sponsor my events kind of like make more impact in their recruitment. So it's a very long-winded answer, but I've started a few businesses, so I don't know how to answer that one. What about yourself?
I think I was just bored of working for other people. Yeah. I really just wanted freedom to be able to do whatever I wanted. Yeah. And I originally quit my job to be able to travel. And so that's what really started it. But what made you choose recruitment, and how difficult was that not coming from a recruitment background?
If I'm being honest, I feel like when I first started entrepreneurship, it was more around what I would enjoy. But I think as I've matured, it's more around what the world needs. And I think that's one thing I always say to young people is make sure your business provides value, not just to you or what you think would be cool, but to what the world actually wants. I think that what the community that I had and the issues that I was seeing firsthand where, I was seeing companies struggle to attract talent. I was seeing talent struggle to get jobs. I was like, cool, I'm in the middle. I talk to the company, I talk to the Gen Zs, and we do something to solve both the problems. So I'm not going to sit and say I'm massively passionate about recruitment, but it's good to know I'm solving a genuine problem. And I think that's kind of what I had in mind. So what made you want to go down accounting?
It was a mistake, obviously, because I didn't sit there and went, I want to be an accountant. I actually wanted to go into economics, but when I was looking at different apprenticeships, because I knew I didn't want to go to university, I was like, okay, I'm going to do an economics degree apprenticeship. And there was only one in the whole country, and I went for it. And then the last bit of the assessment centre was a timed written essay, and they didn't give me any extra time, even though I had my dyslexia diagnosis. And so I didn't do very well, and I didn't get it. And then very naively at 17, I thought, right, what's close to economics? Tax. Started applying for all these tax apprenticeships. They were all getting filled up, and they were like, would you be interested in an accounting apprenticeship? And there is tax in it. And I was like, yeah, why not? I'll do that then. And that's how I got into it.
And earlier you mentioned the idea of freedom. What does that look like to you? Because I feel like even though as an entrepreneur, I feel free. Because I do what I want, but sometimes I feel like if I've got a meeting with a company, I can't cancel. So I'm not, I can cancel, but I can't at the same time. So when you say freedom, do you feel as though because you worked both? I never worked a job before, so when you say freedom, what does that mean to you, and how different is it to working the job?
I think for me, it's about not asking anyone to do anything. So in corporate, obviously, if you want to go to a doctor's appointment or you want to take holiday or whatever it may be, you always have to ask someone, and someone has to sign it off, which is so boring. Whereas when you work for yourself, you might not have the time to go away because you're working and you're hustling. But at the same time, if you want to go on holiday, you don't have to ask anyone. You just go on holiday, and to have the freedom to be able to pick what you do every day is amazing. So for example, I am moving this week, but I can just clear out the whole day on my calendar, and I don't need to ask anyone if it's okay to move on a specific day, because it's my business and I can just say I'm not working that day.
Of course. So with that, you need to be quite self-motivated. So a lot of people listen to that thing and that sounds good. I get to choose when I do things. Where's the line between somebody listening thinking that, okay, cool, sounds fun, but I kind of need somebody to tell me what to do? I think that's something that people should think about when they leave, is it's not the fact that you obviously know what you're doing when you're not taking these things. So how much self-discipline do you have to kind of navigate that?
I think it's quite a lot, but also at the same time, it's not about knowing everything. I started a business because I know accounting, not because I know marketing or sales or tech or anything like that. And so I had to learn all of those skills and ask people for help. But also I think when you're running a business, you can get people to hold you accountable. So your clients hold you accountable because work needs to get done.
Yeah, for sure.
Also at the same time, you can get different business coaches. But obviously when you started your businesses, you didn't necessarily know everything. You just developed those skills along the way.
100%. And it's weird because I actually go into things now knowing I'm going to get things wrong. I'm so prepared to make mistakes because I know that that's what I learned. So I will do something knowing that I'm going to mess up. Like, I go in almost prepared. So, like, when it happens, like, okay, cool, that's expected. So, like, here's what I can learn from it. And I think that makes a lot of sense. We don't need to know it all. I never will know it all. And unless I'm not growing.
And it's really important because I think a lot of people have egos that are too big. They just can't accept that they're going to fail at something or not do well. But you have to fail to learn. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. So, you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
I'm 22.
22, it's a very young entrepreneur, right? You know, a lot of your peers are working jobs in apprenticeships. So have you faced any challenges being a 22-year-old entrepreneur or even 21 when you started?
Yeah.
So, like, what challenges have you faced during that period?
I think definitely a lot of prejudice. Yeah. I'm sure you found this as well when you go to networking events.
Yeah.
People, for me specifically, are like, oh, is it your dad's company and you're just, like, working for it? Or whose girlfriend are you? Whose PA are you? Yeah. No one believes that you actually run the company.
Yeah.
What kind of prejudice have you faced when you've gone to networking events?
I think I've got a similar one. I think that happens a lot when I go to meetings and I go and I give them my name. They're like, what company you with? I'm from my own company. They're like, yeah. And they're like, they almost like don't believe it almost. Yeah. So, but I kind of get a kick out of that because I love like kind of like, you know, being like a diamond in the rough almost, like, you know, like showing people wrong and being different. I think I remember even before Christmas, I had a meeting with the chief people officer of Knight Frank, who's like quite a C-suite level. And it was really cool. I went to the office to meet her. We sat down and had like breakfast.
Amazing.
Then as I'm walking out, the CEO notices me because I spoke at an event Knight Frank earlier. So me and him start talking now. And then the CPO sees us talking, so she comes back to the conversation. It's just literally me, the CEO, and the CPO talking. And I think people are thinking, what is going on there? But I think I enjoy like showing people that, you know, no matter what you look like or your background, you can still network with and be valuable to whoever. That makes sense.
But building your own business, what has been one of your challenges?
I think if I'm being honest, you aren't always taken as seriously. But I always think it's detrimental to the company. So I've had experiences where, you know, online, when you're on talking over email, they don't know what you look like. So when you're communicating, it's all good. You get in a Zoom and see what you look like. It's almost as if like they don't take you seriously because of the fact that, you know, this can't be someone that can do the job. And I've had periods where like I've done the job, but they didn't even look into what I was doing because they just assumed that I wouldn't be able to get it done, if that makes sense. But I just think that when I go in there and I spread my value, that's undeniable. So no matter what I look like, how young I am, my value that I provide is undeniable, and you can't take that away from me. So I just think that it is difficult, but the way to counteract it is having like, you know, knowing what you're doing, because, you know, you're an accountant. Like no matter how old you are, you're either good or you're not good at accounting. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's something that can't be taken away from you.
Yeah.
So
I think that's so true. And so talking about challenges, how did you find out about your dyslexia and what was your diagnosis like and how old did you get it?
That's a really interesting question, which I haven't spoke about too much. So it was weird. So like my whole like secondary school and primary school life, I'd always have like extra classes. So when I was in primary school, I used to get put in that extra, you know, the extra kind of groups. Yeah. And no one would tell me why. Then when I got to secondary school, there was like homework club, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was quite cool in school, quite popular. Yeah. So I wasn't trying to go there. Not without disrespect to anybody in there, but like it wasn't really seen as like a cool kind of place to be. So I used to never ever go. I used to always get in trouble, but I never understood why I was getting put in these rooms as opposed to other rooms. My spelling's always been bad. I used to always confuse you and things like that as well. But I used to think that was because I'd be on social media as I'm typing it. So I never really realised, you know, that was dyslexia. I just thought I was because I was on Snapchat. Then when I got to Sussex University, what really happened was I was with my friends in like a dorm and we were, you know, making a joke out my spelling. And then I couldn't spell something. I kept getting the S and the C of a word mixed up. They made a joke saying, "Are you dyslexic?" I'm like, no. That's like when you see words flying across the screen. Like, I don't have that. So I was like, no. Then I think a week later, one of my friends left beer in my house. So I went to text him to say, bro, you left your beer at my house. But I literally forgot how to spell beer. I was like, how can I forget to spell beer? So I went to Google to try to figure out how to spell beer, and I figured it out. But that's when I thought, wow, like maybe there could be something wrong here. I went to the Sussex Student Support Union and I asked them, you know, this is something that I might have. I don't think I do have it, but I just want to make sure. Then, you know, basically said to me that I'm dyslexic. So then I got diagnosed with ADHD a year later as well. But I think at the time it was hard because I'm 19. So I've lived my whole life under normal school conditions. You know, I felt betrayed almost by teachers. Like, why did no one help me? I was only a little kid. Because as you know, with dyslexia, it affects you not just words, but like just everyday life. Yeah. Like forgetfulness, how you communicate, all these kind of things. I think that it was good to have that awareness, but almost like heartbreaking the fact that, like, why now kind of thing. And I saw a Steve Bartlett video about it recently where someone spoke about it. I can't remember what word they used, but it was really powerful around, like, it's not my fault. And I thought everyone with a learning disability understands that. Where it's like a lot of things in life you get in trouble for your learning disability, and it's not your fault. Yeah. So my whole life I was like, I would always do things, and I always thought it was my fault. Like, I'm wrong. Like, you know, my organisation, all these things, but it's like all those things weren't my fault, and I got in trouble for them. So I think that's like a answer to that question. What about yourself?
I got diagnosed when I was very young. I think I was still in primary school. Yeah. And it has affected me throughout my life, but I was very grateful for the diagnosis much earlier on because it meant that people could put things in place to be able to help me. But it didn't necessarily mean that things were amazing and it was all unicorns and rainbows, because I had teachers that were like, you're stupid, you can't do this because of your dyslexia, and you can't do that because of this. And so that put a lot of limiting beliefs on me very early in life, that I couldn't do things that other normal people could do because of my dyslexia. And so when I then left to start my own business and people were like, oh, can you do this report and write this and write that? Instantly in my head I was like, oh, I can't because of my dyslexia. Whereas I can use tools like AI to help me write articles that people want me to write. But for the longest time I was just like, no, I can't. And they were like, why? And so I think that was quite difficult, and I have spent like a lot of time like in therapy trying to unravel that and take those limiting beliefs off of me so that I'm able to do things and try things. But it's very frustrating for me. Like literally yesterday I was trying to put a pitch deck together for an investment and I could not get my thoughts out of my head onto paper. That's what I really, really struggle with. I just ended up having a cry on the sofa because I was like, this is so frustrating, and sometimes I just wish my brain would work the same way as normal people's brains would.
That was actually my next question of like, because part of me is thinking now, because I get a lot of emails saying how like, oh, rather than having a call, discuss it, can you just message, can you just email? Yeah. And I might push back now and say no, because I can't get across what I want to get across.
So true.
On email. And I think as, you know, we become more inclusive, we need to understand that some people generally can't get across their ideas on written format. You know, I need to speak to you. And do you feel as though that you might start pushing back a little bit on those things as well?
I have. So when I started a couple months in, people would send me big paragraphs, and I really struggle to read big paragraphs. I get all the words jumbled up, like you were talking about earlier. And so I voice note people back because I don't text. And I said, hey, thank you so much for your message. I'm really dyslexic. Would you mind popping this in a voice note or just doing bullet points? And I only reply to LinkedIn messages with voice notes. And if people want to email me big paragraphs, I say, let's just hop on a call because it's going to be so much easier for me. But it's working around what is easier for you.
I agree. So back to starting a business young then. Do you think we talk about the challenges, do you think there's unique strengths that come with that as well?
I think definitely having a different perspective than everyone else is really helpful. So obviously I'm in accounting and it's seen as a very old industry, and there's a lot of older accountants. But coming in it as someone that's in Gen Z, I came in, started my own practice when I was 21, meant that I came with a fresh perspective. So I use social media to gain client leads rather than going to networking events, for example. I feel like you just bring a different perspective. What about you?
I think also you're a lot more memorable, especially like me and you are both like people facing. So like, you know, when it comes to like getting clients, we're more like, you know, we meet them, we build a relationship with them. And I think that if someone like me or you goes to pitch, especially someone that, you know, I'm black, learning disabilities, all these things, if I'm in a network event, you're gonna recognize me, you're gonna remember me, kind of thing. So I think these things there makes you memorable. As like, if you can wow them at a young age, they're gonna think about you going forward. Whereas if you look like every single other person that's an accountant, you're the stereotypical accountant, you're going to be forgotten quite quickly. So I think it's an opportunity to be a lot more remembered, if that makes sense.
Definitely, and I think when you start, your trajectory is just brilliant. Like, I've done things, this is my first year of business, I would have literally never thought about in my wildest dreams. And everyone's like, your trajectory is amazing, which obviously puts like a lot of pressure on yourself to like one up the year that you've just had. But also, I feel like you have so much more time to learn and fail.
I agree as well. And I think so much of entrepreneurship is time, which is why I get so annoyed when people ask me like, oh, Austin, how did you get to this level? I'm like, I started 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I think so much of it is literally just because I started earlier.
Yeah.
When people are scared to start when I was 18, I just thought, let me go for it. So now you've been going for a year, it's like, of course you're not going to see the results you want to see, but like, and I get really annoying people compare my day 2000 to their day 20. And I feel like so many people understand that even, you know, whether it's football, content creation, all these people, they've been doing it for so long. Like these rappers, these musicians, people don't see how long they've actually been going for. Like even someone like Central C, for example, he's making music when I was like 16, and only now he's really taken off. But no one sees that. They think that overnight success, but so much of it comes from people starting young and like being consistent.
And I think not giving up is a huge thing. I think probably in our journeys we've both found times where we're like, what am I actually doing this for?
Yeah.
It'd be so much easier if I just wasn't doing this because it's so much stress or whatever the situation might be. But it's actually carrying on because so many people just fail or stop at the first hurdle and go, oh, I've had a failure or I've had an inconvenience. I'm just going to give up now. And it's just about persevering. Yeah.
If you want something great, like you want to build a great business or build a great team, it's supposed to be hard. Do you know what I mean? I think people forget that if you want something that is what a lot of people want, it's actually meant to be hard. So like, you know, there's going to be periods that can be extremely hard, but you should give up. But that's the period you got to go forward because that's when most people give up. And that's going to make you different.
Yeah. And my business partner, because I had this mental breakdown about the pitch deck the other day, he said, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And I was like, you're so right. Thank you, needed that.
So with all that being said, what other advice would you give someone starting a business young?
I would always say to reach out to people that are doing similar things to you if you want to understand it more. Because I think as entrepreneurs, I love helping other entrepreneurs. So get so many like DMs from LinkedIn and like just give people advice because I think that's really important. But also just start because I think planning is great. I didn't plan. That was probably a mistake. Oh, well, we're here now. But I think you can plan too much and then never actually start.
Yeah. I think I agree with a lot of, and I think I've got loads now from that experience. I think number one is the first one, whereas not a lot of people know this, but when I started the recruitment business, I joined a mentorship group full of like people that run successful service businesses. And there was a recruiter in there, and I joined because I knew nothing about recruitment. So I could have a go figure it out, or I can meet somebody. I think she's lovely, called Jane. She's in her 60s, and she's literally helped me for the whole year.
That's brilliant.
My first client, I used her contract. I changed the logo. But I could either take, you know, years and years and years learn what she's learned, or I can put myself in an environment around her to learn those things. I think that's really important. Another one would be, I think it's really hard for young entrepreneurs, but don't just start a hoodie because you want to start a hoodie line. Like, solve
what
a genuine...
What do you mean?
Yeah, for me, it's like solve a genuine problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, that's why my business now are more successful than my clothing line. And I think it depends, right? I think there's two different type of businesses. There's one you start because you just enjoy it. Like, I would love to have a cafe one day, just because I like going to walks, I like going to the cafe. That doesn't mean that I wanna make loads of money from it, but that's just me knowing that I will enjoy it. You know, even I want to start a suit line, that's because I know I enjoy it. When there's a business that you want to do to make money, I think if you want to do it to enjoy it, do whatever you want. Whether it's cupcakes, whether it's sofas, do what you do because it's what you enjoy. If you want to make money, you got to solve an actual problem. And I think if you look at all the best businesses today, you know, this mic, you know, this phone, even these cards, like they all solve problems. Unless you find something that's going to solve a genuine problem, you know, it won't really make a good amount of money.
I think so. And another thing I would add is having a strong USP. Because if you're going to go into a service-based business, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
So like take accountancy, for example, so many accountants.
Yeah.
And you have to create a clear USP, what differentiates you from other accountants in your industry.
And I think even on a deeper level, niching as well. I think a lot of people try to sell to everyone, and they're saying that go sell to everyone, sell to nobody. I think when you niche down, like for example, I just do Gen Z, like I would never do Gen X or Gen Boom, do you know what I mean? So I think that makes me specialise, and people think that by doing less, they'll make less money, but not really. You can charge more because you specialise at it. And there's so much riches in the niches, and it makes the marketing easier because you know you're talking to, it makes all the other stuff easier. So I'd say like niche down as much as you can, and don't be afraid to niche.
Love that. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned on your journey so far?
The most valuable lesson, and see me, I haven't got any tattoos yet, but if I was to get one thing tattooed on myself, it would be live in day-tight compartments. Because I'll be honest, when I was like 19, I started entrepreneurship young, and I used to have crazy anxiety.
Really?
You know, like mad, like I couldn't sleep at night. because I'll be thinking like, oh, I've got to make this by the end of the month to pay this kind of thing. It will never actually be as bad as you think it is.
Yeah,
but
you always make it up in your head.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Worse.
So I'll be like, up and down. Then I'm 19 as well, so I've got all this anxiety. So that's why I started meditating as well, and that's something that's really like changed me. Like, I feel like now I'm a lot more calmer because I think meditation has almost become me. Not to get too like zen or whatever, but because I did it for 5 years straight, and I still do it now a bit less than I used to, it almost becomes a part of your mentality. But I think there's one thing I read in the book I never forgot, and it's live in daytime compartments. Where it's like, I don't like to live beyond today. Tomorrow is almost like shut off.
Yeah.
And that way, that allows me to like not worry about 2 weeks' time. What can I do today? And then that allows me to focus on the next day. By the time I get to 2 weeks' time, that problem is no longer a problem because I focus on what I can do today. That makes sense.
I love that. I think that's so true. I think we spend a lot of time worrying about everything, and we shouldn't. I think the best piece of advice I was told is stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because at the beginning of my journey, I was just awful at comparing myself to other people.
Yeah.
Other people in my industry, other people my own age, other business owners, literally anyone I could find. I was like, they're doing so much better than me and I should be doing X, Y, Z. And that was awful because I know that other people compare themselves to me and I would never want them to do that because what you like put on social media and what you portray is always so much more positive than what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to put you in the spot now because, we're with an accountant. Have you got any like accountancy gems that you can share? I know that you've probably got loads, but have you got any accountancy gems you can share like with the audience around, how they can maybe like save less on taxes or manage their money better or like, all these kind of things?
All these things. So many. Where do you want me to begin? I just think sometimes it's about like really simplifying it. So making sure that you're claiming all of your allowable expenses. And that might seem really simple, but some people don't know what an allowable expense is. So it's stuff like if I was to set up this as a limited company, the podcast, this studio time is an allowable expense.
Yeah.
And if she was to buy any equipment, that's also an allowable expense. And just small things like that. Any editing software is an allowable expense. So it's making sure that you're claiming as much as you possibly can. And then in a limited company, making sure that you're paying yourself with salary and dividends so you're not paying as much tax.
And how would you recommend like people stay on top of like not getting unexpected bills? Because I've got friends, so I've got 2 friends. One person was actually, out of business because they got a director's loan bill that was so big that they couldn't pay it. They had to close there. And my other friend, 2 things. One's a bit more obvious. He got hit with a VAT bill. Then now he's told me that he's got like director's loan bill. So like, how do you recommend people? Because if we're being honest, as you know, we're not taught about this in school.
Yeah.
So it's so easy for an entrepreneur to like make loads of money and like get hit with like a crazy bill.
Yeah, straight away.
How do you recommend people can stay on top of those things?
You're saving towards your tax bill.
Yeah.
So you should be sitting down with your accountant on a regular basis and they should be able to give you an estimate of your tax liability at any given point. It's just a really simple calculation to do. When it comes to director's loans, things like that, again, having that conversation with your accountant, understanding the calculation so you can sort of save for it during the year. So if you put a bit of money aside every single month, that bill won't seem as horrendous as it is because you know that it's coming. When you go, oh my God, I didn't realise that was coming because I haven't looked at it and I've just been taking money out of the business, and then you're hit with it, you're like, oh my God, this is horrific. But same with that. You put 20% on top of your items, and that money isn't yours. You can't spend it like it's yours. You have to put that money aside. And if you don't put that money aside and you've spent it, then you're not going to have it to pay the bill.
Yeah. And with the director's loans, how would you know what you can and can't? Is it best to just ask your accountant?
Yeah. So some things you accidentally put, like personal spend, through your business, that will have to go in your director's loan account. Obviously, any money that you take out of the business will go through a director's loan account.
No. Interesting.